The moment I drove onto my property, I saw my old wooden bridge. The only way to get to my land, chopped down and stacked in pieces. I couldn't believe it. Right there, the HOA president, Miss Davenport, was smirking, clipboard in hand, shouting, "You can't redo that without our approval." She was pointing at the rubble like she owned every inch of it. I stepped closer, trying to stay calm, but my heart was racing. "You destroyed my access. This is illegal," I yelled. She laughed. A sharp, cold sound that made the hairs on my neck stand up. Suddenly she pulled out her phone, calling someone. "Get the sheriff here. He's trespassing." I froze. Trespassing? On my land? But I didn't flinch. Years in the reserves had taught me to stay steady under threats. While she ranted into the phone, I noticed her assistant trying to phone me. Probably to twist the story. I casually stepped aside, letting them think they had control. As they waited, I started walking along the river's edge, examining the old dam just upstream. My mind was racing. If I could legally claim that, I could control the water flow. Maybe even teach these people a lesson about messing with someone who knows their rights. My wife called just then, whispering, "Remember, we did the paperwork months ago. You own the dam now." My heart skipped. I had forgotten the final deed came through yesterday. I smiled, a cold, dangerous kind of smile. Miss Davenport finally noticed me inspecting the dam. "What are you doing? That's not yours," she shrieked. I leaned on the railing, casually responding, "Actually, it is. And from what I can see, your fancy waterfront mansions might need a little drying out soon." Her face went pale, her smugness slipping for the first time. I let the pause hang, savoring it. That day I realized the bridge was just a start. If she wanted a war, she had one coming. And little did she know, I wasn't just some angry homeowner. I had the law, the deed, and the leverage of the entire river behind me. The next morning, I arrived at the dam early. The sun barely breaking the horizon. The water level was low, but I could already see the panic spreading through the neighborhood. Word travels fast in small towns, and soon, one of Davenport's HOA board members drove up. White-knuckled, waving papers. "You can't do this. You can't control the water like that." I just smiled, keeping my hands tucked into my jacket pockets. "Actually, I can. And legally I already do," she stammered, flipping through her clipboard, realizing she had no real claim. I walked closer to the edge of the dam, letting the water lap against my boots. "Remember the bridge? That was just the beginning," I said calmly. My calmness made her more anxious. She didn't know what I had planned next. I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind, wondering how she got herself into this mess. Suddenly the first signs of trouble appeared. Her fancy waterfront property was slowly starting to flood. Sprinklers, gardens, and even a luxury boat docked at the edge were now partially submerged. She gasped, running from one side of her mansion to the other, trying to find a solution. "Stop, this is insane," she screamed. But the legal papers in my pocket made her powerless. I let the water stay low enough to show her I meant business, but not enough to cause real harm yet. I pulled out my phone and dialed a friend in the county office, casually mentioning that I had documented every step, from the bridge construction to the dam ownership. "Everything is backed by official records," I said, smiling. "You might want to reconsider any more attempts at intimidation." Meanwhile, her assistant filmed the chaos, muttering complaints about how viral this was going to go online. I leaned back, enjoying the tension, knowing that every second of panic on their faces was proof that control had shifted. By midday, the news had spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Neighbors were peeking over fences, whispering, and taking videos as the HOA's expensive waterfront properties sat half submerged, water creeping dangerously close to their manicured lawns. Miss Davenport stormed up to me, her face red, hands shaking. "This isn't over. I'm calling the police." I stayed calm, watching her every move. "Go ahead," I said softly. "Just make sure they check the deeds first." She froze, realizing I had anticipated her exact reaction. While she fumbled for her phone, I noticed something brilliant. The security cameras from the HOA's own clubhouse pointed directly at the dam and my land. Perfect evidence. If they tried to claim harassment or sabotage, the footage would prove everything. Then came the twist I hadn't expected. One of the board members, clearly panicking, muttered, "Wait. Didn't you buy the dam legally last week?" Davenport's eyes widened as she realized the truth. She had been challenging someone with undeniable legal power. I leaned against the railing, letting the suspense build. "Looks like your $1 million playground is at my mercy," I said, smiling coldly. She tried to argue, waving papers and yelling about HOA rules, but no one listened anymore. I called my wife and whispered, "Keep the cameras rolling every angle. This is going to be a lesson for them." She chuckled on the other end, knowing exactly what I meant. The power dynamic had shifted completely. By late afternoon, the tension reached a boiling point. Miss Davenport and her cronies had gathered in front of the flooded waterfront properties, pacing and arguing like trapped animals. I stood on the dam, arms crossed, watching them scramble. Every word they shouted bouncing off the walls of their own making. "You'll pay for this," Davenport screamed. I just shook my head, letting the wind carry her threats away. Then came an unexpected visitor, the local sheriff. A longtime friend of mine drove up. Davenport's face went from fury to panic in seconds. "Sheriff, he's controlling the water illegally," she yelled, pointing at me. I stepped forward calmly. "Morning, Chief, everything's legal. Here's the deed and permits," I said, handing him the documents. His eyes scanned them quickly, then he glanced at Davenport. "Looks like you're out of luck," he muttered, his tone carrying the weight of authority. Davenport turned to the board members, whispering furiously, but no one had an answer. Meanwhile, I activated the sluice gate slowly, letting just enough water flow back to prevent permanent damage, but enough to show them who held the real power. The board members and Davenport realized this wasn't just about a bridge anymore. It was about respect, authority, and consequences. A neighbor shouted from the fence, "Finally, someone teaching her a lesson." I grinned, knowing this was more than just a victory, it was a statement. Davenport's entitlement, her fake rules, her attempts to intimidate, all crumbling while I stood legally untouchable. As the sun began to dip, casting golden light across the flooded lawns, Miss Davenport's desperation grew. She ran back and forth trying to rally her neighbors, but every move she made seemed to backfire. Then a shocking twist hit. The HOA board members started turning on her. Whispers spread. "We didn't sign off on this. She dragged us into it." Davenport's face twisted in disbelief. Her empire of control was crumbling from within. I leaned against the dam railing, savoring the chaos, when my phone buzzed. It was a news crew that had been tipped off by one of the neighbors. "We're live in 10 minutes, the reporter said. Perfect timing. I smiled, knowing that public exposure would seal the humiliation. By the time the cameras arrived, Davenport was pleading for mercy, waving her hands like a frantic puppet, while the rest of the neighborhood recorded every second on their phones. With a calm voice, I addressed the cameras. "She destroyed my bridge and tried to take what's mine. Now the law and the land are on my side. Let this be a lesson. Don't underestimate someone who knows their rights." The reporter's eyes widened. The crowd murmured in approval. Every word hit hard, and I could see the disbelief on Davenport's face. She had underestimated me, and now everyone knew it. Night fell, but the tension didn't fade. The floodlights from Davenport's mansion reflected off the water, making the scene look almost cinematic. She was now pacing her property like a cornered animal, muttering threats to anyone who would listen. The board members avoided her gaze, clearly regretting their blind loyalty. I stayed on the dam, quietly adjusting the sluice gates, letting the water levels rise and fall like a heartbeat. My control, visible and undeniable. Suddenly a loud shout came from the mansion. One of Davenport's security guards had slipped into the water while trying to inspect the damage. The chaos was hilarious, but also served as proof that no one could navigate this situation without consequences.